Hello world, sorry I look a bit of a minger today. You might just have to live with it, I suppose. But yeah, I'm a bit annoyed, and I'm afraid it's taken a little bit of the old Pinot here to actually get myself into a frame of mind where I can record this video. But I'm going to record it because I'm not going to allow myself to be bullied or intimidated by anyone. But basically, I published an article yesterday on my friend's hi-fi blog, and it was a little bit of, I suppose, just a little bit of annoyance at the publicity machine that surrounds a lot of artists today. But in particular, the one that kind of sparked me and got my goat up a little bit was this chap called Isaac Gracie, who is a new up-and-coming art person. His album is being released tomorrow, i.e. the 13th of April 2018. And yeah, at the time, apart from one little EP, we have no idea of who the bloke is, all right? And so yeah, I'm going to read my article out on here. What happened when this article was published was that Warner's, who now have something to do with Universal, have decided to get in touch with my friend whose blog this was originally published on, and threatened to remove his ad revenue if he didn't quietly remove the article within 3 days. So it's basically called bullying. And there was a wee bit of a sniff of the Mac libels about it for me. This is when McDonald's decided to take two people to court for standing outside a McDonald's in London and handing out literature that basically pointed out how bad McDonald's food was and stuff. This was in the late 90s. They, in the end, took these two people to court. The court case lasted for absolutely years, and in the end, the International Human Rights Organisation, whatever, decided that it wasn't legal for them to take these people to court over what they did, because they're just basically two people, and you've got this massive, great conglomerate called McDonald's that decided to take them to court. And I feel that it's the same here. I feel that Warner's must be run by a pack of very ineffective Rottweilers that will basically go after an ant that is crawling around somewhere near them. But obviously, if another great big Rottweiler came anywhere near, then they'd be just totally ineffective and run away. Because this is me, a person that perhaps, if my article had been allowed to remain on my friend's blog, would have made us probably about sort of £1 or something in its whole lifetime, because the amount that you get for having money, for having ads on blogs and vlogs and things is less, far less than even YouTube, and YouTube is a pittance. So it's just a pure bullying, and it's going out for someone that they think can't fight back. And so therefore I am going to read my article out in a minute. It is going to remain in the public domain because, you know, I think that the what I'm saying is a global issue. It's not just related to Isaac Gracie, it's related to the publicity machine that surrounds it, which I don't think is entirely healthy. Okay, my article was called Isaac Gracie, Just What on Earth Was Happening to Pop Music? No, it wasn't. My article was called Isaac Gracie, Just What on Earth Is Happening to Pop Music? And I will read it out in full here. Okay, you'll have to forgive me if my aging eyesight fails or whatever. But anyway, okay. In which I give my knee-jerk reaction to Isaac Gracie's imminent rise to pop stardom. Forgive me for a moment whilst I make a necessary trawl through some of the better moments of pop music's checkered history first. The Beatles. Paul McCartney. Mother died when he was 14. John Lennon. Father walked out on him before he was born, removed from mother, and cared for by overbearing aunt, made to choose between living with returning father or mother, aged 5, mother killed when he was 17. Ringo Starr, born into abject poverty, suffered from serious ill health as a child, including pleurisy. George Harrison, not much dirty washing that I can glean really. As a group, with a slightly different lineup, they worked their way around the seedy bars of Hamburg's Reeperbahn, picked up a few STDs, depending on whose biographies you believe, wore leather jackets, honed their musical craft. As a world-beating pop act, image cleaned up. Wore slightly fashionable suits, combed their hair into cute mop tops, made wisecracky humour. Manager encouraged them to hide the slightly seedy and highly personal aspects of their past lives from the public glare. I'll take a break there just for a second. I've said this before and I'll say it again. They forced John Lennon to deny his marriage and the fact that he had a small child as well. And the result of that was that Julian and Cynthia were kind of forced to live as sort of semi-fugitives until their cover got blown. So, you know, when I sort of continue, you'll just see how hypocritical the whole thing is. But yeah. Where did I got to? Right, okay, so debut album. Raw musicianship with only a 2-track tape machine. It couldn't be much else really, with most of it recorded in one day. Lyrics and vocals caused a large percentage of the female and doubtlessly male teen population to wet their underwear due to latent sexual desire every time the lovable mop tops, as they became, sang in falsetto. Way back in the 70s, ABBA sang about a girl whose inability to make lasting relationships meant she trawled home from a dance alone every Friday. Even now, people of all ages rush to the dance floor to live out this girl's frustrations every time a piano glissando is heard and Dancing Queen starts playing. The 80s, full of pop musicians who inspired their generation of teens via heavily orchestrated public images. Orchestrated by the artists stroke bands themselves, that is. Think Duran Duran, Wham, Culture Club. You don't really think some stylist plucked a 25-year-old Boy George off the street and put a dress and makeup on him, do you? Spandau Ballet, etc, etc. But always the music inspired us, made us dream of yachts in the Caribbean, drinks by the pool, going out at the weekend with our mates and making that all-important sexual conquest. Alanis Morissette rose to fame in the 90s with an album on which she sang Are You Thinking of Me When You Fuck Her? Anyone vaguely cheated on by a partner punched their fists in the air and shouted those words. Thus all these bands took our vernacular experiences and our needs to escape our pasts and the humdrum existence of today and turned it into art. And this is what I have said throughout basically the whole of my time on YouTube. That's what pop music does. It basically offers us the idea that there is a way out of these humdrum experiences and turns that way out into art. I wrote an article or made a video or something or other about being a songwriter, which kind of elaborates on those ideas. But anyway, then the X Factor happened. Sad, plinky plonky piano music played. I'm 150% going on this journey for my nan who's got icky knees and is running out of tea bags, wailed each contestant in turn. And suddenly, because largely these people were talentless and hadn't had the back-breaking musical grounding that our heroes of the past had, their woes were hung out like dirty laundry as the unique selling point of the would-be pop star. Today, during a text message conversation with our lovely whatever his name is, the founder of the site that I was contributing to, he informed me that he'd pre-ordered Isaac Gracie's debut album. The guy's so new that I hadn't heard of him, so I did a quick YouTube search and listened to a song and skimmed a couple of articles about him. All Isaac Gracie needs is love, headlined one article, before a first paragraph in which his most personal life details were aired out for us all to read. I'm sorry, don't Mr. Gracie's parents get a say on this? How do they feel having their inadequacies paraded out to all and sundry? I'll probably repeat myself later on, but we don't even know who this bloke is. We're told that he juggles depression with creativity. I've no objections to public figures speaking out on mental health issues, but too often these days, artists make their raison d'etre the championing of some worthy cause or other. It gets manicured and pedicured until it's squeaky clean enough for white middle class audiences who want their music just sufficiently gritty to not invite the accusation of buying into bubblegum music. About the closest we got into this was the 1980s. About the closest we got to this in the 1980s was the Tears for Fears debut, The Hurting. The album reeked of primal therapy, similar to Lennon's solo debut, where the affected person screams and bawls out their pain until it's relieved. The Hurting spoke to me like no album ever had. The difference is that we, as an audience, were left to figure it out for ourselves. It wasn't turned into some primped clean headline USP. We never found out too much about Roland Orzabal's personal issues until much later. I now know more about Gracie's issues in 2 seconds than I do of his pop music. His debut album isn't yet released at the time of writing. We don't even know who this bloke is. Here, without revealing too many personal details of myself or bleep, I reproduce the critical response to bleep's soon-to-be pop purchase elicited from me. Bleep! Isaac Gracie's been on the radio and I'm quite liking his stuff. I have the album on pre-order. Me, I'll check it out. At this point I searched YT and came up with a lovely copyright infringing video containing the Gracie composition Terrified that also reproduced the lyrics. See, Warner should be going after that one. Me, have you heard this? It's actually quite nice. First time I've heard the bloke. He looks like a spoiled American Midwest white kid, aged about 16, highly stylised to look a bit grungy and dishevelled, but you can guarantee the designer labels and each crease in his shirt are carefully staged. Likewise, the hair is long, but nothing left to overgrow. Perfectly cut. Dirty blonde, one article called it. Not dirty about it. It even blends well into the colour of his shirts. A bit like a member of 90s boy band Hanson after a car wash without the car. Song lyrics, terribly thoughtful, but as is often the case with teens, saying not a lot in particular. So ultimately a bit vacuous, but not unpleasant. I feel the need for a Disney movie. That means I want to be sick. I'll now check him out on Wiki. A bit later, I never got to Wiki by the way, but yeah, a bit later on. Oh, I'm not happy. Yes, he's highly stylised, even down to a perfectly manicured backstory being peddled out in an article entitled All Isaac Gracie Needs Is Love. Bearing in mind we haven't heard of the bloke, his album's not even out, and we already have his problems with depression hung out on the washing line. I'm sorry, it makes a mockery out of people like me who have suffered in silence for nearly 50 years and have become so dependent on their depression that they don't know what it's like to live without it. It's taking mental health and making it a USP in order to win the hearts of girlies who'll buy his record, along with teenagers who live in black bedrooms whose vocabulary is limited to no and The only thing I was wrong about in my initial assessment is that he looks like a Midwestern American preppy kid, but he's from Ealing, West London, and actually he's a wee bit older than 16, he's 21. You could blame the music press for this, but make no mistake, the big players in the music press get press releases and previews, etc., from major record companies like Universal, who release Gracie's work. Warner's have now got something to do with it because of this link up between the two companies. There are understandings between the industry and the music press. The press go with the flow, print what they've been told. It's in their interest too, as the hype of a new artist stirs up readership. At least initially. Doubtless when the tabloids get hold of Gracie, they'll drag out neighbours and ex-pet dogs who will reveal all salaciously. I daren't think how damaging this could be to Isaac Gracie's well-being in the long run, long after the record company accountants have run off with the royalties and forgotten to pay the taxman. In an age where oldies like myself are coming to terms with the fact that it seems like every one of our childhood idols was a sexual pervert, it seems the industry publicity machine is breaking its back trying to foist worthy causes onto us. But make no mistake, the objective is money. Happy mediums where pop stars are allowed to thrill us again by offering us the opportunity to run away, as the Pet Shop Boys sang, or to break free, as Queen sang, just don't seem to be allowed. It's all been replaced by raising awareness of knockety knees. The X Factor has a lot to answer for. And that was the end of my article. Just really what rankled so much is the whole hypocrisy of the thing. The fact that, you know, obviously in the past, people like John Lennon couldn't reveal their wedding ring. Nick Kershaw in the 80s couldn't reveal his wedding ring as well. That countless stars have had to hide their sexuality from audiences even after the legalisation of homosexuality. George Michael was persuaded by his management and his record companies to not reveal his sexuality, because George Michael admitted that he had a kind of self-destructive element about him, which when he sort of realised that everything was going out of control and how you know, he was venerated by everybody, he kind of deliberately made career decisions that would stop that kind of adulation, because he just wasn't finding it helpful. And so one of the things he did was to come out. And then, of course, there was I suppose, the scandalous incident, scandalous if you read the Daily Mail, of him cruising for sex on Hampstead Heath at some point or other, which, you know, yes, people do it. It's not particularly savoury. I don't do it, by the way. But it's it was kind of designed as a way of him just kind of trying to slow down all of this, you know, ridiculous kind of over adulation from people and stuff like that, which, you know, is not healthy for people. So that's the only reason why he came out. And it's you know, it's just so hypocritical of them to suddenly allow the pop machine to just constantly have people that are raising awareness for things, but what they're doing is just turning everything into kitsch, you know, and trivializing everything and everybody's experiences, just with the aim of making some more money. And so, yes, I was a bit rankled, so that's why I wrote the article, but I'm even more rankled now that Warners think that they can bully people by threatening to remove ad revenue from people for an article being up in which a tiny little person like me, who makes absolutely no money at all from doing this, apart from, you know, a few pennies every 6 months or so, and not going after the big guys who really do infringe copyright and whatever. You know, I am all for copyright, by the way. You know, I don't want people stealing my photographs or my music. It's copyrighted, and therefore, you know, if there's any money to be made from it, which, as I say, there isn't, but if there is any money to be made from it, it's going to me. The problem, as I see it, is that these companies have got such a reputation for being so corrupt, you know, with people even having had clauses in their contract saying that due to whatever circumstances we, the record company, may decide, you may not get paid in any 6 monthly quarter, which means that they can constantly delay a payment and you never ever get paid. There's, you know, constant sources. You know, I made some cynical allusion to the taxman not getting paid. Well, that's happened to people. That happened to Janice Ian. That, you know, someone at her record company that was her accountant was basically fiddling the taxman, and she got saddled with the bill, and she ended up sleeping in some button bin somewhere with a hole in the roof kind of thing, had to sell everything, and wasn't allowed a bank account for X number of years and stuff by the Inland Revenue, because basically the people around her had just been totally corrupt. And, you know, she'd made them, you know, millions of pounds, and they did nothing at all to help her. So, you know, this is this is the thing that happens in pop music all too often, you know. As long as at the time they're made to feel like stars, having the limos and the whatever Gucci dresses and all that kind of thing. But then suddenly they say, well, where's my money? And they say, well, do you remember you had that limo and then you wanted that hotel room in the Ritz and that Gucci dress and everything? Well, we spent all your money, you know? So unless you've got a real level head and people that really are working for you and not working for themselves or working for some organisation, you're going to lose all your money. You're just not going to get paid at all for what you do. And that's the thing that rankles about the copyright thing. You know, having them just, you know, try and bully me and trying to bully my friend as well, it's just, you know, it's outrageous, really. It's absolutely outrageous. So I'm afraid this article is getting published. People are going to hear it. Whether or not they start coming after me, I'll have to be just a little bit careful in what I call the title. I won't put the said pop star's name in, but the pop star really has got nothing to do with it. You know, it's just the publicity machine surrounding him, which I don't think is really doing him any favours, and I don't think it's doing the pop music industry or, you know, this idea of pop music any good whatsoever, you know. So there we have it. Okay, I'm sorry that this has been a bit of a ranty video, but some people like them, so there you go. All right, and there won't be any editing in this, so if I say yeah too many times, or so yeah, or you know a few times, then live with it. Okay, see you later, bye.